Hi, my name's Zelman Ainsworth. Thanks very much for watching another episode of A-PTV. Today I got Yuri Angeli from Brunetti's. Brunetti's is an iconic Melbourne cafe coffee brand that's been around since 1974, and it has a great, rich history in the Melbourne CBD and Carlton, really being the forefront of this coffee scene that we're so lucky to live with. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy this one. Brunetti started in 1974. Your family bought that in 1991.
Correct.
And that was just one Carlton store back then, right?
Correct, yes.
What role did Carlton play in creating Brunetti's DNA?
Look, I think apart from being sort of the central part of Italian culture, there was a lot of Italians in the area, the Little Italy, but also it had a very good blend of customers from the university. There were students, professors. Also, we had a lot of hospital clientele there. The hospitals were close by. It was in a precinct that was full of restaurants, which really helped our model because we specialised in desserts, and a lot of the clients that were eating in the area would come and visit us after their meal. So that worked really well, especially on the weekend, and also it was a very important tourist trade there as well.
And did you have that same sort of like organised chaos back in 1991 as you do today here?
Look, it was probably worse. When we were in the original store in Faraday Street, it was a lot smaller. And
How small was it?
Oh, look, there were two versions. The first one was, the original one was 400, and that included production, because production was included in the retail.
Yeah.
Then we expanded into Johnny's Green Room, which was next door, back in 2000, I think. Johnny's Green Room's 300 square, and it was a longer profile, and it gave us a little bit more space to introduce a few different products. But in the 400 square metre store, the original one, which was really about 200 of retail, it was very chaotic. It created a really nice ambience. It was really organised chaos, and it was very Italian.
And that's a 7-day business back then too?
Yeah, 7 days.
What was your rent back in 1991?
Look, the rent was in that store was always a little bit more than market always. And when I look at it in terms of a percentage of sales, it was probably a little bit higher than what we pay now. Yeah.
Right. So it all balances out. It just gets bigger.
Yeah. Pretty much.
What was the biggest shift you made in your business since 1991?
Look, I think the most important shift was separating production with retail, because that allowed us to really focus on production in an area where we had a lot more space, rather than in the retail where you're really limited in space, and you know, the chefs couldn't work in that environment and be efficient. So really centralising the production and separating from the retail allowed us to really focus on production and concentrate on quality and have better efficiencies in the retail. Also, the retail store became bigger, and that's really important for retail because that's where the revenue was coming from.
So back then, everything was produced in this Faraday Street?
Everything was produced in Faraday Street.
And sold at Faraday Street?
And sold to Faraday Street, yes.
Right. And now your group, the Brunetti brand, has about 10 stores?
Yeah, the group has 10, 11 stores, yeah.
Yeah. The biggest challenge running retail now for you?
Look, definitely staffing. I think that's the biggest stumbling block, because it's really hard to find very high-end staff. Our model sort of lends itself to a very informal sort of service model, which allows us to take on new staff members and train them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And that's a big advantage.
And that's an Italian-themed sort of cafe?
Look, it's the Italian cafe. I mean, the model that Brunetti's is based upon was from a cafe in Rome called Il Zio di America, which is still existing. It was that model there that sort of grew in Melbourne. But there's many examples of this type of service model and ambience in Italy, of course, yeah.
So you've been in and around the Melbourne CBD since the 90s, and you've seen a lot of cycles and things come and go. What's the biggest shift that you've experienced?
Last 3-4 years has been interesting. Some things are positive and some things are negative. I think with the cost of living, I think that's impacted a lot of the businesses in the CBD. I think one advantage we have with our informal service model, and also sort of an affordable luxury product, if you want to call it that, is that allows a person to come in and have a coffee and a biscuit and have an experience. And that's important, I think, to us, because I mean that's what we really like to see, people getting together, and it really creates, it's part of the brand. It's really inbred in the DNA of the brand.
And how have you brought Carlton into your city stores?
When we went to do the Flinders Lane store, I felt that we needed to do a few different things. And one of it was to refresh the brand and to look at making it more appealing to a younger demographic. So the first thing I did is I did a refresh of the brand, and that was an evolution of Carlton, of course. Everything else was very much an extension of the Carlton model. So the way the pastry side of things, the bar, the iconic sort of horseshoe bar, the savoury section, which we're specialising in. We're finding a lot of the growth is coming from savoury and the Campari bar at the back.
Do you get big celebrities coming through the store?
Yeah, look, we've had a few big ones. So we've had Robert De Niro, we've had Danny DeVito. Who else?
Did they leave a good tip?
Look, when Robert De Niro came, he came in disguise. Danny DeVito was really good. He came in and he was he spent a bit of time with the staff. It was quite interesting to see him. And
how long ago was that?
Oh, look, it was a while ago. It was probably 15 years ago. Yeah.
What was the biggest mistake you made in all your years?
I think not centralising sooner. That's probably the biggest mistake, because that alone gave us an opportunity to really control our costs and also allowed us to have a platform to expand and be efficient pretty much.
And the best decision you made in all your years?
The best decision
related to this business?
It's an interesting question. Look, there's a lot of decisions that were positive here. It's a very successful store. I feel setting the store back was something that was a risk, because the retail is very expensive here. But I thought that alfresco dining was also important, and I feel that is part of our DNA as well. Carlton had a very strong frontage, and so to create that ambience outside was a bit of a risk, but I think it's positive. So when you walk into the venue, it has an atmosphere and a vibe, and it's a good introduction to the concept.
I mean, you're a store that you used to have at City Square around the corner, and now the one you have on Swanson, Little Combs, and now this one. The Brunetti brand has become like one of the same, or quintessential part of the Melbourne's landscape and coffee. Coffee's changed a lot in the last 30 years, a lot. There's been a lot of competition come and go. What's the single biggest mistake you see made by new business operators coming to the CBD?
Well, in terms of quality, it's a non-negotiable for me. So really, to deal with the cost of goods, I feel you need to deliver the absolute best, and that means raw materials, experience, and everything. The pressure that some of the operators might be under, they might want to compromise that and pay with the price. I find that customers appreciate a quality product, and they don't mind paying that difference.
Yeah. What's the next 2 years look like for you? More stores?
We have one more store, which is quite a large footprint store, which we're working on already. I don't really believe there's a lot more retail for me, really. We're really well positioned in the CBD, Chatston, and I think we'll be looking at a model away from retail potentially. I really feel that the retail, I don't want to use the word saturated, but it is really enough in Melbourne, I think.
You had a good run in retail.
Yeah, well, a little bit of luck and a little bit of hard work, I think, but it's worked out, yeah.
Yeah. Would you ever go interstate?
Interstate, possibly once Melbourne settles. I'm running out of years though, so I don't know. Maybe a question you could ask my son.
Is he in the business?
No, he's only 12. So
right. He's still not in the business.
No.
Was he in school?
Yeah. He's only 12. Yeah.
All right. So
I hope he's at school.
How has a customer changed for you since you first started working in these cafes? So 1991. What's that? 34 years ago.
At the time, we were obviously in Carlton alone, and the customer mix was the student, that professor from the university, the hospitals, and on the weekend there were a lot of tourists.
And they're coming from far and wide?
Yeah, look, the customers were local, more local then, but we were getting a lot of customers coming in from out of Victoria for the weekend mainly, and tourists. To be quite honest, I don't think that's changed too much. The tourist is also very strong, especially in the CBD. Melbourne is really good because it activates a lot of sporting events and big concerts in the CBD, and that helps a lot with the retail. So I think being in the CBD has opened up also the opportunity for a lot of the offices, which really is Monday to Friday, which is also very strong. It's something we didn't have in Carlton.
But the customer mentality, expectations, has that changed in the last 35 years?
We deliver quality, and I try to do that all the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the biggest challenge, to ensure that we can innovate and improve all the time. So back in 91, we talk about a cafe latte. it was a very trendy thing then. A lot of people weren't as well travelled as they are now. You know, Melbourne is a very high quality place when it comes to those items. So I think quality is a non-negotiable, and it's always a work in progress to be able to improve all the time, because it's very competitive.
And biggest shift in managing staff between now and then?
The staffing part of the retail is really hard.
Was it hard back then too?
Oh, look, having one store a lot easier.
Sure.
But it was busy, and it was, you know, like it wasn't easy either back then. But now we've got obviously a lot more stores. Having the retail separated from the production and also the admin helps a lot.
Right.
Be able to have the right structure, which is what I believe in. Like I think to be able to add extra layers when necessary allows you to really ensure that you've got a very strong team and a team that can upskill, because it's really important to really promote within. I feel I've had staff start as service staff, and some of them are the main players in the admin, in the finance part of the company now, and marketing and so forth. So it's really good to be able to sort of focus on upskilling the staff, even paying for training and things like that, and keeping them for as long as possible.